There is a whole generation of people, those who consider themselves rotary phones, and the launch of the first iPhone, and psychologists, I can't determine the best place to put it. Yes, if you were born between 1976 and in 1985, you belong to the end of Generation X. But you're barely considered a millennial, not even. Although everyone tries to pay you what you should put in one of those boxes. Researchers began to give a name to the era of the 60s. Around 2014. Some sociologists, he even described this group as mini generation thanks to the window specifically. What happened during Laughs Out Loud? That specific fragment of history was created something that's really worthwhile, the exam. So, today we're going to take the exam. Discover what makes it interesting from a psychological perspective. To begin with, you spent your youth in an analog world where boredom's simply something you were a part of, something you had to deal with. Remember the phone numbers, okay? Don't. Let us remember the horror once more, in case it was overlooked. My favorite television program has suddenly disappeared. One day, while you were moving to in adulthood, the whole world changed. Digital. Not gradually, but suddenly. The timing of this change had consequences. Most of them are still in the implementation phase. Entire generations grow up in the same environment. Technological or other type of model. Xennials, however, I have experienced both. Crucial life experiences during years when you were still discovering you yourself. Your late teens seemed so beautiful. It's different than when you were 20, and the difference, the age range was much wider than in most other studies. Generational differences. Keep that in mind. What are the consequences of this for your daily life? Do you remember what your teenage years were like? He spends his time circulating paper notes in the classroom, or conversations that have disappeared go out, or make plans where I was unable to send a text message due to my delay, or where are you? You appeared suddenly, and you were hoping your friends would be there. It required a completely different type, greater trust and participation than currently exists now. But you were 20 back then, and I saw everyone buying mobile phones. The following people are registered on Friendster, MySpace, then Facebook, before social media existed. In the media, most people only had 3 different ways to communicate with someone, whether it's your home phone, your work phone, or just your mobile phone, going to his house. Then suddenly you have 17 different types. Messaging apps, and I simply deduced from that get it out. During your formative years, he has experienced both worlds. According to research on brain development, the prefrontal cortex, the area that it measures our ability to adapt to the new situation, complex situations and skills learning, or it continues to mature until approximately a certain age. 25. A study published in the journal Nature Neuroscience Research has shown that this area, it ages well into its 20s. This means the 60s remain at this high level. The period of flexibility when technology, the natural landscape, has undergone a complete transformation. A complete renovation. I was young enough to learning to use new technologies was a natural process. But he is old enough to remember what happened just before that. Because they became adults when technology emerged, Generation X was able to sometimes one can be somewhat skeptical about technology, especially millennials. As for the young people, they have no real memories of it. A life without the internet. If, however, I have experienced both. Things that led to the creation of a type, it is very rare to speak 2 languages fluently. A personal meeting can take place without checking your phone every 30 minutes. Seconds, but you don't feel worried either. About learning new programs. Do you remember how you felt when? It's really inaccessible for hours. Time, an experience that many people go through. Young people simply don't have that. But you laugh sarcastically, aren't afraid of either of them. Technology, as used by some older people, the new generations have arrived. And this is evident in ways you might not even notice. Like you, they may have another relationship. They enjoy more privacy than previous generations. I grew up in a world where the awkward moments vanished like snow in the sun. A memory instead of eternal life. Social media. That's the first year of high school. The haircut, that breakup, that drunken night. At parties, there is no photographic evidence. It only exists in people's stories. Tell me. This lays the groundwork. A different relationship with your past. Your memories can change, and can become stories, can change shape over time. The normal functioning of human memory. You weren't surrounded by documents. Research on autobiographical memory. This indicates that the way we store and remembering personal experiences is actually our brains are incredibly flexible. They are designed to free your memories, keep what's important to you, and let the rest fade away. When everything documented permanently and searchable, that natural process becomes complicated in methods that we are still trying to understand. But here's where it gets complicated. He entered the labor market around that same time. What does the 2008 financial crisis mean? Many of you have had important experiences. Economic instability during the indicated period years in which it was expected to build your career. Now is the right time. It's more important than people realize. Research on economic hardship shows that financial impact during this stage of life, it can have long-term psychological consequences. People who have lost their jobs or financial instability during this lifetime, this phase usually includes those experiences. Despite their circumstances, they carried on. Improve. Shape your thinking about money, security, and risks in various ways. It doesn't just disappear. So this generation has learned to adapt to a huge technological change, but also I suffered significant financial losses at that time. We're trying to create stability. I adapted to the change because I had to. But you can also have the space. Endless questions about what happens when everything falls apart. Reconsider your decision. And nobody here is really talking about it. A mix. A cultural dialogue. Talking about generations often puts Generation X in a difficult position against the millennial generation, as if everyone born in this generation had been born after 1965 and before 2000. In principle, this is the case. It's all the same, but the specific years that they were born in, and especially during periods in the face of these rapid changes, distinctive features emerge. Experiences that are not compatible with those wide range of categories. Budget-conscious individuals face. Frankly, it's an unusual paradox. You have the capacity to be self-sufficient and skeptical about Generation X because you grew up before overprotective parenting became commonplace. Normal. Maybe your parents weren't being aware of your location for hours. That was completely normal. I learned it. Solve the problems yourself, for fun. Yourself, to combat boredom and frustration without the immediate presence of an adult. Intervention. However, it also succeeded puberty during the first few days of the internet in an era when technology was still in its infancy. The idea is to connect everyone and solve the problem. And all of that happens before we even realize it. That could definitely help some people. Things are more complicated. It's strange that you'll find yourself there. Independent and cooperative, skeptical but optimistic. Digital but analog. That seems to be the definition. This ability to preserve the golden years is known as contradictions that do not seem strange. She remembers both the situation before and the situation after. This means you can see what was there, what was gained, and what was lost. Perhaps you're not so nostalgic in the same way that Generation X perhaps was, since I greatly appreciate modernity, also in terms of amenities. But unlike many others of the younger generations, I still have realized what we've sacrificed. You've lost the ability to be truly alone with yourself. Ideas that came effortlessly. I've lost them. The patience that comes from waiting. You had lost a certain kind of aura that he was there, even though he usually wasn't. There is something else that competes with you. You got their attention, but you managed to communicate your information and choices. My younger self would never have imagined it. If you are a xenophobe, and maybe you even feel that way, you don't belong anywhere. Furthermore, young in some ways, old in others. Others, trapped between two worlds. It's not a mistake. It's absolutely true. The defining characteristic of your generation. Experience. In a world that preserves. It is changing at a faster pace than anyone could have predicted. After having gone through a huge experience, moving is perhaps one of the most important things there is. Valuable things you could have learned. I have adapted to a transition phase. Lifestyle. The environment in which you live. They do not need to come from their place of birth. Always be the person you are. The xennial experience is worth knowing about. Therefore, more than everything. Not because you're special in a better way, but because you lived through a specific moment in history that has taught you something that others haven't taught us. They're still trying to figure out how to do it. Adapt without losing yourself the process. If you're interested, I'll do it. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you want to help me continue with production, you can. Consider using content like this. Channel member. Your support is sincere. This means a lot to me. I have some other videos. I think you'll get in touch with me. Different topics, but with the same meaning. A kind of depth. Until next time.